Hi, I'm TJ Dallas, and I'm going to be reading from Chapter 1 of my latest release, Wrath, War and the Woe Trumpets. This is my first time doing a reading, so hopefully it's okay. Chapter 1, Amelia. I hoisted Lexi higher onto my shoulders and folded her little legs around my neck, holding securely to her pudgy limbs. Ready? I asked, giving my daughter a moment to process the question before tickling her foot. Lexi? She squealed and flung her arms out, a miniature fist of excitement clipping me around the ear. I groaned. I'll take that as a yes. The sun was high as it approached midday on a Friday afternoon, and perspiration gathered on my back. The 7 of us, me, Maddie, Harry, Althea and our 3 children, were spending a long weekend in the Trossachs National Park, camping on the banks of Loch Lomond. We were only a couple of hours' drive from Edinburgh, but I felt like we were in a different world. I inhaled deeply, smelling the fresh air of the woodlands. Reggie, mate, Harry said exasperatedly from behind me, you can't bring the iPad. We're going camping. There's no electricity to charge it. Harry held open the rear door of her white Lexus, standing by for Libby to follow Reggie out of the car. But what will we watch at night? Reggie asked, knitting his brow in confusion. Harry knelt in front of him. We're going to build a fire and toast marshmallows and tell spooky stories. She lunged to grab him, and Reggie roared with laughter, turning and tripping over a protruding branch that spanned the width of the thin dirt track. Harry snorted while Reggie picked himself up. You okay, champ? Yeah, he grumbled, wiping the dirt from his knees. Trust Reggie to be covered in scrapes and bruises right before he starts primary school, Harry muttered. But at least we've got a few days off work. I can't remember the last time I took a vacation. I chuckled and angled my head back. Lexi's dark eyes peered straight down at me, puckering at the corners. She was almost a year old now and had just learned to sit up herself. I clutched her legs tighter, holding her stable. Her larger-than-life personality was already shining. She grinned sweetly, before becoming so excited that she smacked me around the ear again with a screech and a cackle. I grit my teeth to mask the pain. My daughter definitely took after me. She had a robust right hook already. Harry? Althea asked from behind the car. Harry glanced up from the iPad in her hand, struggling to figure out how to switch it off. She managed it and threw it into the glove compartment for safekeeping. Reggie didn't look pleased. Yeah? Harry walked around and looked at the piles of equipment and duffel bags. We'd brought 2 enormous tents, along with poles and pegs, a stove set for cooking, plenty of pots and pans, plus 3 days' worth of food and drink in 4 massive coolers. Harry lifted 2 out and set them on the ground. Did you pack the board games? Althea lifted one of the duffel bags from the top of the pile and placed it by her feet. She wore a nice pair of tight pink leggings with hiking boots and a white tank top underneath a thin waterproof jacket. Her sunglasses were propped on top of her long blonde hair, her emerald green eyes glittering in the sunshine. I sure did, Harry replied, hoisting out the other 2 coolers. They might be near the bottom. There's Monopoly, a pack of cards, and Cluedo. No Yahtzee? Althea picked up another duffel bag, opened it, and pulled out a bottle of water. Taking a drink, she looked around at Harry. Nah, I'm not a fan of dice games anymore, Harry retorted. Persephone has put me off them for life. Althea smiled, but said nothing, taking another swig. Maddie lifted our daughter from my shoulders, nuzzling her nose against Lexi's. Ready to go camping, my little sparrow? Lexi squealed again, but Maddie was successful in bypassing the enthusiastic swing of a tiny fist. Are you ready to go camping? I chortled. Maddie shifted Lexi to one hip, and I had to be quick to bypass her playful punch to my shoulder. This was my lover's first time out in the wilderness, and I was curious how she'd react. Harry and I were sweating profusely by the time we got both tents up. A little fire pit had been dug into the earth by the picnic bench and bordered with bricks and stones, and Harry had terrific fun getting a fire going. It took a while for the kindling to catch, but soon lovely warming flames rose a couple of centimetres over the uppermost bricks just as evening set in. Harry placed her hands on her hips and grinned proudly. We spent the evening showing Libby and Reggie how to toast marshmallows. Harry and I drank a few beers, Althea stuck to lemonade, and Maddie sipped from a can of gin and tonic. She'd cringed at the cans whilst in the shop last week, searching for a more elegant bottle of distilled juniper berries, before I'd reminded her that we were going camping and not staying at a 5-star resort. Her lip had curled a little in disgust at the first taste, but after her second one, it appeared she'd forgotten she didn't approve. She cracked open another can with a satisfying hiss, and I smiled, slouching back in my camping chair. The sound of crickets permeated the darkening dusk, the fire the only source of light except for some well-strung fairy lights around nearby trees. Whoa! Harry suddenly held up her hands and grabbed the thin wooden stick from Reggie, who had started flailing wildly, whipping a flaming marshmallow around like a sparkler. Harry blew it out, the burning lump of whipped sugar fizzing miserably. Easy, Regulus, Harry said, casting a sideways glance at Althea, who had paled. Be careful. Sorry, Reggie said dejectedly. It's all right, Harry exhaled with relief. Here, try this one. Keep it further away from the flames. She pushed another white fluffy marshmallow onto the end of a stick and leaned forward, motioning Reggie closer. Reggie stood between her knees, facing the fire, and Harry held Reggie's wrist while directing the marshmallow to the top of the flames. "Twist," she said gently. My heart swelled with affection. For all of Harry's doubts since becoming humility, she was a wonderful mother. She had 3 children, Reggie, Libby, and her eldest Rue, whom she had left in charge of the Cardinal whilst we were on our vacation. He had been invited on the trip, but he was Reggie's brother through and through, unable to leave his computer and electronic devices for that long. Riley and Georgia would keep an eye on him to make sure nothing burned down while we were away, but he was a mature young man with wit, intelligence, and street smarts. None of us had any concerns about his ability to keep things running smoothly for a few days. When we'd finally put out the fire and crawled into our respective tents, Lexi nestled between Maddie and I, and we fell asleep within minutes. Hi, I'm TJ Dallas.